In this video, I'll be revealing the 401k trap that's destroying retirement savings for a lot of Americans, and how following conventional advice can cost you your $1 million retirement. Through working with many people who've diligently saved for decades, only to watch their savings evaporate rapidly in retirement, I discovered that the problem wasn't their saving strategy. It was getting led into certain retirement traps that they maintained no flexibility for. That's exactly why I'm making this video today, to show you the dangerous trap hidden in conventional 401k advice and how to avoid making the costly mistakes that can wipe you out earlier than you ever imagined. I want to break this video into different parts. I'll show you concrete examples where using traditional rules and not really understanding them can get you in big trouble and even ruin a $1 million portfolio. I'm going to share with you a major problem most people miss when they apply the 4% rule, and how we need to think differently about stock market returns as you enter into retirement. And by the end, we'll talk about solutions that I've utilized that work in getting past these issues. But the first and most likely thing to destroy your $1 million portfolio can be your spending inflexibility. This is one of the most critical concepts and also one of the hardest to get through. Why? It's because you've probably been told that if you just follow the 4% rule, you'll be fine. You build your plan, you set your spending budget, and you expect everything to go exactly as designed. But life doesn't work that way, right? And in fact, it's more likely things work out differently than you imagined. This is the number one thing that gets retirees into trouble. They lock themselves into a spending plan that is often at the highest limit they can go and can't adapt when life throws them a curveball. And those curveballs come in many forms. A big health event that raises expenses overnight, helping your kids out of a jam because they know you have money saved, or even something I just read about in Bloomberg recently, where children are raiding their parents' retirement funds early, asking for an inheritance before their parents are ready. Now, in some cases, that may come from genuine financial need, and in others, it may cross a line into something more harmful, like subtle forms of elder abuse, and that's something separate, but a very real issue that retirees need to be mindful of. The point is this: the inability to adapt when life changes can be the problem. If you've built your entire retirement plan on a $1 million portfolio and then something comes along and derails it, the only thing that will save you is flexibility. And in fact, inflexibility and misaligned values are some of the biggest drivers of poor financial outcomes in retirement. And that's one of the reasons I earned my certificate in behavioral finance. Because money decisions aren't just about math. They're about mindset, habits, and the way our values align with our choices. Now let's talk about the 4% rule. You've probably heard it described as a safe withdrawal rate that should last through a 30-year retirement. But here's something important. Even the creator of this rule has updated it, suggesting that 4.7% or even 5% may be sustainable today. The reason for the change is simple. The original 4% was viewed as overly conservative. But here's the part that most people overlook. That withdrawal rate is based on total portfolio withdrawals. For example, let's say you have a $1 million retirement portfolio and plan to take $50,000 a year. On paper, that looks like a 5% withdrawal rate. But if you also need the 15% withheld for taxes, the actual withdrawal is $57,500. Suddenly, your 5% withdrawal rate is now closer to 6% than at 5%. That distinction matters. It may look fine during a strong bull market, but if conditions change, if returns flatten or the market declines, that small difference can quickly turn a seemingly solid plan into one that fails. And if you've built your retirement around fixed spending without flexibility to adapt, the risk of failure only grows. If you're unsure how to structure withdrawals in a way that works for your retirement, I've created a resource called the Retirement Reality Workbook. It walks you step by step through how to evaluate your spending, your withdrawals and income strategy, and the risks that could derail your plan, so you can make adjustments before it's too late. It's a free resource found in the description of this video. Sequence of returns risk is one of the most important concepts in early retirement planning, and it's often overlooked. The idea is simple. The order in which your portfolio experiences gains and losses matters just as much as the average return itself. Two retirees can earn the exact same long-term average return, but if one experiences poor returns early in retirement, while withdrawing money, their outcome can be dramatically worse than the other who experiences those poor returns later. The Schwab article, Timing Matters, Understanding Sequence of Returns Risk, illustrates this clearly. Imagine two retirees, both in a moderate portfolio, both starting with $1 million and withdrawing $50,000 per year. One of them experiences strong returns in the early years and poor returns later. The other experiences poor returns immediately, a 15% decline 2 years in a row. By the end of year 2, their $1 million portfolio is down to $630,000. But they still need to withdraw $50,000 to live on. So do the math. Now they're withdrawing $50,000 from $630,000, which is an 8% withdrawal rate, not that original 5% that they thought they were following. That jump in withdrawal rate accelerates portfolio depletion, and it's very difficult to recover from. This happens because when you're forced to sell investments in down markets, you're locking in losses at the worst possible time. Those dollars are gone forever, and your smaller portfolio doesn't get the same compounding benefit when the market eventually rebounds. By contrast, someone who enjoys strong returns in the first few years can build a cushion that makes it far easier to weather downturns later. The good news is that this risk can be managed. The Schwab analysis shows that retirees who adjust their withdrawals by cutting back during the down years end up far better off than those who rigidly stick to the same dollar amount. Their example shows someone reducing their withdrawal rates down to 2% and leaving it there. But here's the important distinction. You don't have to lock in that lower rate forever. You can raise your spending again. You just need to give your portfolio some time to recover. That way, you avoid locking in permanent losses while still allowing yourself to enjoy higher income once the market stabilizes. And let me be clear, the whole point here isn't to scare you. The examples are a moderate portfolio which has historically been a good balance of returns and downside risk, and the market has historically gone up over time. You've probably heard that your entire career, and it remains true. Markets are at all-time highs right now, which proves it. But you heard it while you were working, and you had a much longer timeline to let their markets do their thing. Now you're planning for your retirement, and the timeline is shorter. You're not just investing anymore, you're also withdrawing money along the way. That makes timing matter in a way it never did before. Markets don't always cooperate on our personal timeline. That's why flexibility matters, being willing to step back temporarily in order to protect your long-term plan, and then stepping forward again once your portfolio has the chance to rebuild. So we've just walked through some of the biggest risks that can quietly derail even a $1 million portfolio plan. But I don't want to leave you with just the problems. Let's shift gears here and talk about some solutions. Practical ways you could protect your retirement, adapt when life changes, and make sure your money lasts. One of the biggest solutions to the spending inflexibility is to build guardrails into your plan rather than locking yourself into a fixed withdrawal number. That means giving yourself upper and lower spending boundaries. You can increase spending when markets are strong, but cut back when the markets decline. Another way to protect yourself is by separating your needs from your wants. Another way to protect yourself from sequence of returns is to set aside your first years of retirement expenses in a bond ladder. This gives you predictable, short-term income so you don't have to sell stocks at the worst possible time. For example, with some of my retired clients right now, we're using the strength of today's market to carve out an additional year of expenses they don't need to worry about. A bond ladder works especially well, with bonds maturing each year to cover each year's living cost. And you always know that money is there regardless what the stock market is doing. And that's what I'm doing with clients right now. After a few strong years of returns, we're setting aside some money for upcoming vacations and housing projects or anything else that they want to do. Cover your essential expenses like housing, food, and healthcare first, and leave flexibility in discretionary areas like travel, hobbies, or gifts. That way, you could preserve your lifestyle security while still leaving room to adjust if you need to. This also ties back to that behavioral finance part. When your spending is aligned with your true values, it's easier to make temporary cutbacks without feeling like you failed. And remember, any reduction withdrawals during a downturn is temporary. Once markets recover, you can increase your income again and get back to living the retirement you envisioned. At the end of the day, the real key to a successful retirement isn't about clinging to rigid rules. It's about building a plan that can adapt to markets, to taxes, and to unexpected events that life throws your way. Flexibility gives your money the best chance to last and to align your financial choices with your values, which gives you confidence to enjoy retirement instead of worrying about it. If you're not sure whether your plan has that level of flexibility built in, click on that link below to book a free meeting with me and we'll talk through your situation. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.